So for those who have joined as I wait for, okay, sorry. Now it has accepted. Let me do okay. Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. I hope I'm still audible. Sorry for the delay.
Yes, you're fine. Just take your time. You're fine.
Okay. So first, I'll start by saying that it's important to celebrate a day like this when we recognize the role of women and girls in science. And I believe this year's theme was to inspire inclusion. So the main mission, I guess, is to make sure that we push as many girls to understand the role and the needs that there is for the science world for them to be involved. Because again, nobody understands women like women do, and science actually solves problems. So why not have ourselves solving our own problems? So that's the first thing I'll recognize. Second, I'd like to talk about what robotics is. And we can't speak about robotics without first defining what a robot is. For most people, robots feel like this scary giant thing that is out to take over the world and do away with humans. But for me, when I have a chance to talk to students, my best description usually is it's just a machine that is given instructions to do something. For example, smart washing machines are given instructions to wash clothes. So that is what the role of a robot is, to actually help us and help life be a bit easier and also manageable. And we do tend to interact with robots everywhere. When you go to the bank and you withdraw money, that ATM, that is a robot. When COVID happened, and we had to stay away from touching things so that we wouldn't contract COVID. Everything became a smart device, smart doors so that you wouldn't open the door. Dustbins became so that you didn't have contact with them, sanitizer dispensers. So all these things are classified as robots. And it's very intriguing to see our everyday life being affected by something that sometimes feels so distant, and bringing that into a classroom and changing that perspective. I find that very important. And how I do this is by blending in robotics lessons in science and math. And now that we are speaking of STEAM, the arts, you cannot build anything without having a creative and an artistic mind to some extent. So bringing out that side of a student is one of my favorite things, and I've gotten to experience it a lot. And when it comes to science, most people don't see how you can connect something like biology to robotics. So one of the things I have stated in my presentation is how my parents have always told me that there's nothing new under the sun. And being the scientist that I am, I have always opposed that, because we are evolving, we get smarter, and we create new things. But since the time I started interacting with robots and understanding how robots function, it became very, very clear that robots are pre-replicated from features of mimicry. And that was very intriguing for me, that you can use a lesson in biology to teach robotics, or actually use a robot to teach a lesson in biology. Because even the cables function the same way as our nerves do. The motors function as our joints. So intriguing things like those. For me, that is, I think, one of my favorite parts of working with Lego, or not really Lego, with robots. And the one I have there on the screen is the one we use most of the time, which is my favorite. Yes. So the importance of having robotics in education is because it brings in different concepts that are not just applied in the classroom, but also in the world at large. So as an educator, my main role is not just to teach a child how to code, or like individually. It comes in as a package. The first stage becomes, okay, I'm sorry for saying child. I meant learner, because it is not restricted to age. So it always begins with how we think of coding. Sort of the word we tend to use is demystifying the fear of what coding is, and just making it as simple as possible. Make it make sense. That is something I like to say. Then design thinking, which is how you begin creation or invention from beginning to end. Prototyping is when you build your first creation. Yes, you test it first and you kind of see if it works. And once in a while, I really very much like teaching a student how to pitch an idea. This is because no matter how good your product is, if you can't sell it, then it kind of loses its value. Not really selling financially, but more of having users accepting it and using it. And when it comes to robotics and technology at large, that is a major fear. People are not really accepting of change when it comes to technology. Everybody's a bit resistant. So how you sell it is also a major part. And the reason why we say learners is because people have a general fear of saying it's too late for me to learn. But I don't believe that is true. It is, as long as you can access information, then you are ready to learn, in short, or if you're willing to. And so now I'm going to give my background. I'm going to take a pause on my sharing of my screen for a while and sort of give my background. I hope the robotics part made sense. Now let me give you the journey of how I got here. In high school, I loved math, and I really, really loved math. Kind of struggled with the sciences a bit, but then I came to realize there's a lot of math in it. So I started loving that side of sciences, and I started excelling in that. And that pushed me to pursue a degree in science, general science. I ended up doing math and physics as my major and a minor in chemistry. So I'm a very STEM girl. And the biggest struggle in university, I think, was being the only girl in a physics class. And that was a bit tough because no one else could relate to anything that was going on. And again, in my math class, we were only 3 girls. That's again a huge difference compared to having a class of 26 and only being 3 girls. In my physics class, I believe we were 20 and I was the only girl. So that imbalance was a bit much. And I really, really wished there was another girl in the class, because then again, you would share some issues. At times, I'd beat the boys in my exams and they'd take my paper for remarking, because for them, there's no way a lady could do better in them in physics. Better than them, sorry, in physics. And that was very, very strange for me because I had never felt competition being gender-based like that. Got to that stage. But then again, I survived that. And then after graduation, actually during my studies, I did an attachment. And the institution I went to, that is the first time I got introduced to robotics. We did a training and I got to experience what coding can be like without the whole harshness of the languages. And I got to experience robotics and how fun it is and how you can learn through it and blend in a lot of things you can learn outside the world into a very small activity that brings so much joy. And that's the first time I thought of, maybe the second. The first time I thought of being an educator, I was in high school. But the second time I thought about being an educator was when I did my attachment. I got to experience teaching students whenever they came into the institution for visits. And I really found my niche in that. I really found joy in it. I sort of zoned out whenever I was teaching. It brought me so much happiness. And I found peace in it. However, because I had not done education, I was not really a classroom teacher. Upon graduation, the obvious choice would have been for me to go back to school and do a diploma in education. But I decided, so that I can have the pride of saying that I am a full STEM girl, that I would go and do a diploma in IT. And so I did, which I am yet to graduate from, but I did. I did all the coursework. And also it opened up my mind even more to what technology could be and what coding could be and what the role of learning coding at a young age, or at least at whatever is important. This is because, again, in the world we live in, it's a 21st century skill. Everybody needs it, no matter what career you're in. I was talking to a few girls over the weekend from high school, and I was telling them, if you want to be a doctor, you might end up doing coding at some point. Not really compulsory, but nowadays you have surgeons doing surgeries using robotic arms. So somebody must have coded it. And it's best when you have a background in that area when you code the item that is used in that area. Data analysts are required to code nowadays. Everybody, coding is becoming a skill that is going to be required in every front. And the mission I have is to reach as many people and make them understand that it's not a scary thing. It's a simple thing. It just requires a bit of patience and dedication towards it. And it can be fun. That's the favorite part. It can really, really be fun. And even as our curriculum has introduced coding at a really young age, it has opened also avenues for income for post high school, because you can create animation, you can do all these things. It opens your mind to what you can access and what you can do, as opposed to waiting till you're in university and then boom, you have a course and you have to learn a new language. And as from my experience, the diploma just starts with just type hello world, and you have no idea what is going on or why you're typing hello world. But it has been an interesting world, especially because most people focus on the software side of programming. Mine is more physical computing, where you create a program and you actually see it physically work, as opposed to an application or a website. So to some extent, it's not really conventional, but it's slowly being accepted everywhere. And I'm happy that schools are also exploring how far they can go with robotics and what it means in the classroom. But also at the same time, my biggest fear has become robotics being seen as an individual thing, especially in schools, and not an avenue to expand how students understand sciences, or how they fall in love with sciences even more, or how they can fall in love with mathematics even more. So even as I pursued this career path, even when I call myself a STEM educator, it's not really the most common career path ever. I still haven't done my diploma in education, so I can't really teach in a classroom. That is why I also don't call myself a teacher. I think of myself as an educator because I really don't want to teach in the conventional way. I want to bring interest and I want to bring joy in learning. I want to help students understand how they learn. For me, it took a very short time when I was young for me to understand how I learned. I learn by teaching others. So whenever I struggled with something, I just sit with someone else and try and teach them until it stuck in my mind. Notes never really worked for me. And understanding how you learn changes everything in your life, every single thing. Because even as an adult, I have done a few other certifications. I've done project management and data analytics, and I could do it on my own because I figured out how to learn, and I enjoy learning. I enjoy discovering new things that I didn't know. I accept when I do not know something, and I also accept failure. Not really failure like deep failure, but the joy of being a scientist is you have a theory, you test the theory. If it fails, that's also a theory on its own. Just keep on trying over and over again till you succeed. And that has to be my favorite thing about being a scientist or a STEM educator, is failure does not put me down. It pushes me to keep on achieving more. And I keep on trying. And that's something I want to share with everyone, that as a scientist, you cannot give up on your path, on your passion. It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist, but you can do it. So I am among the few. I don't know how many we are, though. Maybe we are many, but as far as I know, I'm among the few ladies who are in love with robotics, but mostly focused on robotics education for students, for young learners of all ages, 7, 9, 8, all of it. And this world is called the Edtech world, education technology. So how you apply technology in everyday education and how you expand how we understand things. So that is my background and how I got to robotics. I've been here for 2 years and it has been an absolute joy. So even as I conclude, I'd like to share one last thing. Sorry, give me a second. There's a quote that has fascinated me of late. I don't know if it will be visible. And that is a quote. Do not be afraid to pursue your passion and do not compare yourselves to others and their milestones. A good team has people from all walks of life, all education backgrounds, all types of thinkers. That is by Kay Roth, an electrical engineer technician in Boston Dynamics. The reason why I like this is sometimes we feel like I am from a different place. I might not be needed in a field or in a place, but you are needed because your perspective is as important as anyone's. So that has been my very, very short presentation. And it has been my absolute pleasure to be here and to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lucy, for such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure the students have so many questions for you, and they're going to hold them for now until we have our next speaker, and then we'll be able to answer all the questions at once. So without further ado, I want to welcome